Welcome to my live stream tonight. I appreciate you checking out the video or the audio, I guess I should say in this case. I got a couple things to share with you that came across my radar earlier today that may be of interest to you. I think one of them will most definitely be of interest to you if you're a human being living on planet Earth. The other one may or may not. I'm going to start with what I feel is the most important topic. I covered this in a video, maybe a year ago, a year and a half ago, could have been 2 years ago at this point, probably 2 years ago at this point, about what they're doing with with the atmosphere, right? Spraying reflective dust. In this case, I forget what it was. It was some type of a dust that is designed to reflect the sun. This was Bill Gates talking about this at least a couple years ago, but now they're apparently. I think this is the dumbest thing they could ever do. I can't wrap my mind around it. Nothing they do makes any sense, to be quite honest. Um, Now, apparently, this article on MSN says U.S. tests first cloud-powered sun blocker tech to fight global warming. I just can't help but think to myself, why on earth would you ever mess with the environment and ecosystem where we've seen time and time again human beings have effed it up over and over and over again. Like, stop being stupid. It I think they probably have a deeper, more dark and sinister plan, to be honest, because I look around in the world and my scale, if you've been listening to me for any period of time, is incompetence or corruption. There's nothing outside of those two ends of the spectrum based on what I'm seeing. I would love to give them credit and say, hey, this has worked. I haven't ever found something that's worked based on all criteria, right? The cost of it, the effectiveness of it, the necessity of it. Lots of times government does things that people don't want, right? The citizens don't want, or um, or even companies will do things that people don't want. I mean, human beings have a long history of getting it wrong. This is why I say it all the time. If there was one word to describe the human experience all the way back to the beginning of time, it would be oops. That's what it would be. Oops. We got it wrong. Human beings are continually getting it wrong until they get it right. And then they get it wrong until they get it right. I think this is really stupid. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine anyone on earth going, yeah, this is a good idea. Let's do things to the environment where they could have far reaching ramifications that we may not even know. That's the other reason that I'm always skeptical of government. They have a tendency to push one button, pull one lever, and solve one problem and create 10 more problems. And so this is the kind of shit that worries me, right? Um, the, the Earth's soaring temperature have pushed scientists to explore various alternatives. Like, we're to the point now where apparently it's so bad. Again, I don't see it myself, and I've seen just the other day I saw a video. I think it was 20 years or 25 years of satellite view of an ocean. Ocean land where ocean and land meets on some shore, and it hadn't changed at all, right? And I'm not saying I don't want to get into like the details of it because I have my beliefs and I'm sure other people have their beliefs. But again, I just go back to who is telling me this, what the source of the information is, right? And I have a hard time following whatever they say. Um, let's see what else this article says. So they call it cloud brightening technique that deflects sunlight and may temporarily cool the planet. I just call complete and total bullshit on this. Um, the innovative geoengineering method is called marine cloud brightening, and it may allow clouds over the ocean to reflect more sun rays light back into space. It is son of a gun. They're not thinking of any ramifications of what the possible ramifications of blocking those rays from getting to the earth are. Like, that seems to me, I'm not a scientist, but it seems to me that those might be important for those sun's rays to get here. Um, Clouds naturally reflect sunlight into space. The team is testing this technique to intentionally amplify this natural phenomenon. Um, so the idea is to reduce the amount of sunlight absorbed by the Earth, leading to a cooling effect. Yikes. Team used a specialized sprayer on the deck of an aircraft carrier Hornet to release microscopic sea salt particles into the air. In large scale versions, ships will be equipped with massive spray machines. I just can't believe this is really what they're spending their time on. Um, Knowing that they have a long history of making all sorts of bogus claims about everything, a lot of things, right? I just don't know one thing that they've touched that turns into be, a positive experience. This technique may cause potential side effects. So at least they're talking about it here. Let's see what the side effects could be. While marine cloud brightening holds promise, it's not without concerns. Some scientists are highly skeptical of this cloud brightening process, particularly when applied at a large planetary scale. Oh, you think? That's a novel idea. This geoengineering approach has the potential to influence climate patterns, including changes in ocean circulation and precipitation patterns. Son of a gun. Potential side effects. It's always the potential side effects that I'm more concerned with. What do we see on every single PHARMA commercial? A list of pretty pretty bad side effects, if you ask me. Not something to sneeze at. Some of those side effects, you heard some of those side effects, they're no joke. They are no joke. Um, let's see. It's vital to explore and test the feasibility of such intervention technologies. The goal of the MCB program is to understand whether it might be possible to predictably and reliably brighten low marine clouds. Oh, brother. With the unabated emissions, the target of limiting Earth's global temperature rise to a reasonable safe threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius over predetermined or pre-industrial levels. Whatever, that good for them. Let's move on to the next topic here. I saw this come across my feed today, and Sylvester Stallone apparently is in some kind of semi-hot water for making some comments on the set of Tulsa King. I'm looking at an article on deadline.com. My first thought when I saw this was, oh shit, they're going after him because we know how they do in Hollywood. Dave Chappelle talked about it back in the day when he turned down the 50 million, I believe is what it was, from for his show because he just felt like he was being taken advantage of, right? And he didn't like the way things were going down, and they fired up the media machine and basically told the whole world that he went off the deep end. And according to him in his interview on Oprah back in the day, that wasn't the case at all. But they do that when you don't play ball with them, right? You play ball, or we will use the media machine on you. And I believe I didn't at the time, but I do now, especially after I've seen and learned so much over the last few years. Many people have, especially, or what I do believe. I don't believe the story the mainstream media was spinning about Michael Jackson, um, based on different stories that I'm hearing and different information. I just think it was another media trick, and I don't know what went on with Prince either at the time of his passing. But I just think there's some shady things going on, and I think sometimes the media, if when you see the media machine spin up one thing, they do it over and over again. So my first thought was, did he cross someone, or is he on the list, or is he, someone that they want to kind of, I guess, take the reputation down a little bit? But maybe that may not be the case. I don't know. Apparently, he said used some not nice things, said some not nice things to some people on the set, and they're looking into it, so to speak. But the other topic of interest related to Sylvester Stallone is his move, I guess, permanently to Florida. With a home in Palm Beach, Sylvester Stallone says he and wife will move to Florida permanently. So that's interesting. Another one leaves California. Let me just speak about that for a moment. I sometimes watch these, there's some awesome architecture in California, and they're still building the multi-million dollar mansions, in Beverly Hills, in the Sunset Strip area, which is wild to me because I think about living in California, and I don't know that you could pay me enough to live in California. I don't know. Maybe maybe it's not as bad as the media and the boots on the ground content creators and vloggers and news organizations are painting it to be, but it looks pretty bad. Like it looks pretty bad. Not to mention the overarching tyrannical government under Gavin Newsom and just the bizarre things they're doing, talking about like exit taxes. They're going to have to raise taxes to cover all the social programs they're still doing. So irritating what's happening in California. During COVID times, our government gave, I think it was 42 billion. They gave California 42 billion. And then at the end of the year, Gavin Newsom's like, yeah, look how great of a job I did. We now have a budget surplus. This is how politicians spin it. That's how they do it. They get money from Washington and then they go to their constituents and say, look how good of job I'm doing. And unfortunately, some people believe them. It is wild to me how anyone can still be voting Democratic. I'm not letting Republicans off the hook by any stretch of the imagination because I don't. They're doing some sketchy things too, but just focusing on the Democratic Party because of what's happening in New York, in California, in Oregon, in Washington, in Chicago, and starting in Denver or in Colorado. Just looking at those states and the major cities in those states and how absolutely defunct and broken those cities and states are, it is mind-boggling to me how anyone else in other places in America could still be voting Democratic. It's wild. It's wild. And it just goes to show you many people are waking up. I've got a short video I'm going to be sharing soon on my YouTube channel here of some younger gal, and she was a liberal, and because of COVID and all of the BS that came along with it, she said she turned conservative. I mean, how can you not? When if you're seriously looking at the facts and assessing the situation and using your thoughts and using your thinking processes, you cannot like give them a pass there. I mean, Mayor Eric Adams has said it himself. At first he said, "Bring me all the, send me your people, and we'll absorb them. We'll be a sanctuary city." And then I think it was probably a few months later he said, "You know what? This will actually break New York." Blah 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 blah. Long story short, how on earth is a mayor still in a position after doing that? Because to me, that is akin to destroying people's financial future, maybe their neighborhoods, maybe the safety of a city, all of the things. If you get up there and say, yeah, what I said, what I did, well, is he, and I think the words he used were could or would destroy the city. That is unbelievable, mind-boggling. But it goes on. But it goes on. Um, let's see what else they say here. So he left. I know, of course, we know Joe Rogan left. Um, I think Mark Wahlberg's moved to Nevada. Nevada seems to be the hot spot. It looks like Nevada or Florida or Texas for most of them. But it sounds like they already had a home in Palm Beach since 2020. And then they moved over there, I guess. I don't know. I don't blame him. I don't blame him wanting to get out of, California. Time to move and leave the state of California permanently, he said, and we're going to Florida. He added, we already have a place in Florida. It's a done deal. Yeah. So another one leaves California. Let's see. He says he raised all three of our daughters in California. Jennifer Stallone said during February 21st episode, everything's a memory to me, memories of them not being there. So I needed a big change. and Sly went along with it. So cool. I guess it's I guess another another OG Hollywood player leaves California, and I don't blame him. Thanks for checking out this audio episode. I appreciate it. Leave me a thumbs up if you like it. I would love to have you as a subscriber, not only on my YouTube channel here, but also anywhere on social media at gmarkphillips. Got a bunch of content that I think you may enjoy coming up down the line, talking about the events that are unfolding in our world, and really what I see as the battle between good and evil. Right? It is 100%, in my opinion, an information war, and there's a quote that I will be sharing soon too about a gentleman that basically said as much. Hey, this is a war between. Uh, I think the quote or his assessment was, it's a war between the so-called elite and everybody else, and that is definitely what it feels like. Right? It feels bizarre. These different events that are unfolding around the world. When you look at them from that lens, they make more sense. When you look at them from the traditional lens of, oh, our government cares about us and their government cares about them, et cetera, it doesn't make any sense. That's why for over the last 3 or 4 years, as all these weird events unfold, nothing has made sense about them. They don't follow the traditional rhyme or reason, so to speak. Um, and I realize that that may be even simplistic thinking too, because even if you go back to the early 2000s and that major event that happened early back then, and the after effects of that event, the Patriot Act and the Department of Homeland Security, that also then feeds in. However, I did come across a PDF. You can pick it up as well. I think it's on archive.org. I think is where I got it. It's probably elsewhere. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. I started it. I read a few things. It is freaking phenomenal. So I may be talking about that in the future, although I might not too. I might not talk about it on YouTube as much because I don't know, and I don't like to put different things up on different platforms. But I will probably pull some things from it because, again, one of my whole things is, I realize people don't have a lot of time to go and research this stuff and find these things and do these things, and I enjoy it. And so one of my offerings to humanity is, hey, here's this hour and 30-minute long video I've condensed down into these nuggets, these, maybe 60-second or less sound bites that give you a pretty good idea of what's in the video so you can stay up to speed. Because like I said, everything is about information right now. And also understanding the past and also understanding history. If everyone on planet Earth would have understood the nature of government, historically in every country all around the world, the event that unfolded in 2020 looked far different, would have looked far different, right? Remember, their two most powerful weapons in the war, their most powerful weapons are fear and rushing. Fear and rushing. We have to move fast, and you should be afraid of this because, and the reason they use those two things is, of course, the rushing, they don't have to explain it to you, just like Nancy Pelosi said way back in the day about that silly Affordable Care Act. We have to pass it so we can find out what's in it. That's an actual quote from what she said. That's the dumbest shit I have ever heard in my life. Meanwhile, the US just keeps plodding down this road of silliness right into what appears to be not a good place in our future. How far in our future, I don't know. But rushing, they pass these bills a lot of times. They did one just a couple of years ago, a year or two ago, the omnibus spending package, the 4,155-page bill between Christmas and New Year's. These guys are not good decision makers. They're not good stewards of our country, and hence the reason I never listen to them for anything. They're clearly not exhibiting high levels of thinking or high levels of intellect or just even process. So that was I know there were two things I was going to share with you. Well, that's the rushing. That's one of their favorite tactics. Again, the top two tactics, rushing and fear. And then, of course, the reason they use fear is because it shuts down the prefrontal cortex, and then we can't, you know, critically think about the situation. When you're in a fear mode, you cannot think properly, right? I don't think your brain goes offline when you're in fear mode. And so that's why I think the Bible, from what I've told, the most common phrase in the Bible is do not fear. That's why I think the Bible said that. That's why I think God said that. He knew they're going to mess with you and try to make you fearful. So do not fear. And many people who didn't fear that situation, you know, didn't didn't succumb to that situation. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't other ramifications, but I am saying that if you don't fear them and you critically think about the situation and you look at the history of them, and also you look at the history of the pharmaceutical companies, you know that's a no-go. That's a no-go, right? No matter how much fear they put in, I'm going to stand by my conviction. For me, because of what I know about the FDA, and I know they've been messing with food, and it's probably a fortunate situation that I had been studying food and ingredients and diet and nutrition for like 15, 20 years, just for my own purposes, right? To be healthier, have, think clearer, longevity, all those things, looking at certain ingredients, cut out the sugars, cut out the seed oils, preservatives, of course, try to go organic, um, keep food in its most natural state. The less processed, the better, because your body doesn't know how to deal with those things that they put in there, the processing and the preservatives. It's not registering as food to your body. And this is why many people believe, and I'm one of them, that the reason we're so obese now is because when your body gets something it doesn't know what to do with, it puts it into fat. That's my understanding. And that would certainly make sense if we're eating more processed foods these days. Why, maybe that's the reason why we're seeing more obese people. I'm sure they're probably eating more as well too, and maybe more sugars. When you have people carrying around 32-ounce Cokes all day, that'll put some that'll put some sugar in your body, right? um but because I had been studying them for so long and so perplexed about why they allow this bullshit food into the grocery store, especially the cereal aisle, especially the candy aisle, and these candies and things targeting children, and all of their so-called health foods that they allow these manufacturers to put in the store that have the seed oils, the preservatives, the processed ingredients, the sugars, um, all those ingredients, and they put them in granola bars and sugars and candies and cookies, hydrogenated oil, partially hydrogenated oil, right? It has long shelf life, really not good for the body. The body doesn't know what to do with that type of oil. And those are the kind of things that the body's like, well, this is basically a foreign substance to me. I have no understanding of this because it's so far removed from nature, right? This is again why I'm never going to eat anything with a peel on it, right? The new coating that Bill Gates and the WEF, their little brainchild, all the things they do, I don't want any part of it. Like they're super sketchy to me. Um, that's just how I feel about it. But remember, fear and rushing, and those are the two tactics. They love those two tactics. If if everyone on planet Earth would just remember those two things, and then also put whatever they say, the government and the media. And I don't know why everyone doesn't do this already anyway, because we've had plenty of examples, historical events that have happened. Even George Bush has admitted, oh yeah, we kind of went into Iraq under false pretenses, or there weren't, the WMDs that we thought were there. Um, what a mess! What a mess! What a mess! If everyone would have simply known what governments do historically, and who the pharmaceutical industry is, right? What they've done historically, that we would have had a vastly different outcome. People would have never ran into that situation and that solution if they knew the details of the pharmaceutical industry. If they knew what the Department of Justice has fined them for decades for making fraudulent, misleading claims about their products. If people knew that, if people understood specifically what happened during the opioid epidemic, what happened during the Vioxx epidemic. We saw a little bit with the Ozempic as well. I mean, these are important events that are unfolding in our world, but because of the level of distraction that people are really allowing themselves to be distracted with the bread and circuses, the keeping up with the Kardashians, the Netflix specials, you know, they're not picking up the information. So the information is there to be integrated into our knowledge banks and our database, but people for some reason aren't picking it up. And it's because they're being distracted. And that is again by design. That could be the third thing. So fear, rushing, and distraction. Those three things are really how they control and manipulate us and how they further their agenda. And I look around to humanity and I'm like, well, it's up to all of us. Are we going to unshackle ourselves from the BS, turn off the bread and circuses? I sure have. I probably knocked it down by about 90%. I don't want to watch any more movies coming out of Hollywood. I didn't watch Leave the World Behind deliberately. Deliberately. One, I don't have Netflix, but two, I didn't watch it deliberately because I don't want that bullshit. I don't want to watch something made by those clowns. Just like I don't want to take a medicine made by them or eat a food made by them. I don't want anything from them. They sketch me out to no end. They really, really do. So I'm not watching any more of their stuff. And you know what? I'm happier. I don't want that in my consciousness. I'd rather go for a walk or watch different type of content, or watch an independent creator on YouTube, a travel channel or cooking channel or health and wellness or just some interview. Fascinating information, fascinating interviews. Um, on YouTube. One of my favorite new podcasts is Diary of a CEO. So much good information, and that's why people are waking up so much to such a degree. And that's why I think they're trying to do one last push to get people under control. And I don't know whether it's going to work or not, right? I don't know how many people are awake and aware and how many aren't. I hope more are than aren't, but we'll see. You can't, it's hard to tell because we don't have a meter for that. But fear, rushing, and distraction, they're huge tools. So I'll wrap it up then. At that point, I appreciate you hanging out with me, talking about some events that are unfolding in the world. Leave me a comment below. Leave me a thumbs up if you like this video. I appreciate you. And until next time, I wish you all the best, health, wealth, and success. Bye-bye.